Apple, one of the top performers in the Dow today and posting its best week since February. But the stock's still shedding over $300 billion in market cap since President Trump's tariffs announcement. Our next guest just raised his odds for an Apple-specific exemption to the China tariffs. Joining us now is Angelo Zeno, senior equity analyst at CFRA Research. Angelo, it's great to have you on. Why are you raising your odds that we could see a carve-out for Apple?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Morgan. Obviously the reason at hand is, clearly the China tariffs are unsustainably high for any company, to do business there. But really, the biggest reason for us, and something that probably doesn't get enough attention out there, is the fact that, after Wednesday, the competitive landscape really changed for Apple in a big way, kind of in the U.S. And the big reason for that is when you think about the reciprocal tariffs that were reduced down to 10% outside of everywhere, outside of China, and then increasing that of China now up to 145%. But essentially that does is it empowers Apple's biggest competitor in Samsung, right? If you think about where Samsung does most of their manufacturing, it's in regions like Vietnam, India, South Korea, where you're talking about a 10% tariff now at hand versus that of Apple at 145%. So, we all want to see a China-U.S. deal done at some point, hopefully this weekend. But the administration is really going to have a credibility issue, we think, if they don't grant Apple an exemption at some point here sooner than later. And especially a company that is considered essentially our crown jewel and, putting $500 billion in the U.S. economy here over the next 4 years to help kind of prop the whole, made in the USA theme.
But Apple is also expanding its manufacturing footprint in Vietnam. And just earlier this week, there were reports that it was, via air freight, shipping millions of iPhones ahead of these tariffs going into place to the U.S. So couldn't it just shift more of its supply chain there if you do start to see these negotiations towards a bilateral trade agreement with Vietnam?
Yeah, I mean, you can. And, when you think about specifically on the phone side of things, I mean, their manufacturing on the iPhone side of things is in China and is in India. But, yeah, I mean, to your point, they will shift essentially any type of demand needed within the U.S. in terms of iPhone sales to India, but that's not going to be enough, right? Especially, I'd say over the next couple of months, maybe they're okay because they have built some inventory, as well as the fact that you are talking about kind of from a seasonal perspective, the trough of the cycle here, the slower months going into the ending of the iPhone 16 cycle.
Are you ready to dive into the world of stocks with a twist of gripping news? Brace yourself for a unique whirlwind hitting the stock market. Get ready to uncover the latest buzz revolving around leading companies like Apple and Nvidia. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
Top Apple analyst just cutting his price target, and a familiar one to all of you who watch this program. Steve Kovac is here with those details. Steve?
Yeah, Scott, let me put this in perspective for you, what Apple investors are facing as we get 9 hours away from those 100% tariffs on Apple. Morgan Stanley, Eric Woodring over there, he was among many firms lowering the price target on Apple today. Let me read you this quote from what his note said. Quote, "It remains to be seen when or how Apple will raise their device prices, but pricier devices should still lead to lower volume in general." He goes on to say they're going to lower their revenue estimates for the fiscal year of 2025, 3 to 8%. iPhone shipments lowering their estimates 3 to 14%. And this is all coming, Scott, as we have these discussions, people trying to figure out what Apple is going to do to respond to these tariffs. We've gotten no word from Apple itself and just a bunch of misinformation from the White House about Apple's capabilities of bringing iPhone manufacturing here. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal yesterday saying some manufacturing is being shifted over to India, which has that lower 26% tariff rate on it. But again, that is nowhere close to the manufacturing Apple would need to make up the slack to meet the demand of iPhones here in the United States. So it's no matter what we're looking at here, it's likely going to be some price increases. UBS put out a note yesterday kind of estimating what those price increases would look like on those Pro models of the iPhone 16 that are out right now. They're talking about a couple $100 price increases. Obviously, Apple would have to eat the rest of it, but we're looking at a really hairy situation here because it's not just China, it's not just India. There's a lot of production going on in Vietnam, especially for accessories like the Apple Watch and AirPods, and then other countries like Malaysia. You have those MacBooks being produced in various other countries as well. So look, again, 9 hours out, and we just have zero clarity on what this is going to look like for Apple, and we see it reacting today.
Step into the realm of stock market drama as we navigate through the twists and turns of the financial roller coaster. Imagine dissecting the perplexities of Wall Street gibberish, decoding the essence of resets, and unearthing the hidden truths behind market fluctuations. Amidst the serious tone, let's sprinkle in a moment of lightheartedness with a witty joke about the stock market. Because hey, even in the world of finance, laughter is the best medicine. Delve deep into the realm of tweets, analyzing the subtle nuances that shape market sentiments. Backed by concrete data, let's paint a vivid picture of the stock market landscape, connecting the dots between the articles with finesse. But before going on with the video, are you into cryptocurrency? If so, check out our second channel, Investocracy Crypto. We bring you breaking news, expert analysis, and the latest trends in the fast-moving world of digital assets. Whether you're a seasoned crypto investor or just curious about the future of finance, we've got something for you. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Investocracy Crypto now. Don't miss out and stay ahead of the game. Now, let's get back to the video.
The tariff escalation between the U.S. and China casting a dark cloud over shares of Apple. The iPhone maker, being heavily reliant on China for its manufacturing, would face severe impacts from tariffs, especially if they stay at that current 145% rate from the U.S. to China. Our next guest, however, seeing rising odds of some relief for the tech giant. CFRA Research Senior Equity Analyst Angela Zeno joining us now to discuss. Angela, there's been a lot of speculation about what these tariffs could do to iPhone prices here to the U.S. There's been reports that Apple did a special airlift through via India to get some of its iPhones out ahead of the tariffs. What does this imply for sort of the timeline of what we could see for iPhone pricing?
Yeah, I mean, and thanks for having me, Julie. But when we kind of think about this, I mean, in terms of pricing, we actually don't think there's going to be a hike in pricing across Apple's installed base until their next gen phones come out. So this fall, back in September. And that's just typically how Apple handles pricing increases. You typically wait for that next gen device launch before increasing. And we think that's going to be the case again. We do think that if there's going to be a tariff situation like we're seeing now, the best time for it to come for Apple would be during your seasonally slower period, which is what's happening right now. Typically, the June quarter is your trough quarter. So from that perspective, if they've built up enough inventory and they can leverage whatever capacity they have in India, at least for their U.S. demand, they should be okay, at least for a couple of months here. But clearly, as we start entering the fall months and into the holiday selling season, you're going to need to tap into that China capacity to meet, the higher expected U.S. demand. And at that point, there is going to be higher pricing, we think, irrelevant of what the tariff number is going to be, because it's at least going to be 10% and potentially a lot higher depending on how the U.S.-China dialogue goes.
Angela, do you think Apple could ultimately secure a special tariff exemption, a special tariff carve-out like they did during Trump 1.0?
Yeah, I mean, so we've increased the odds, right, to 50% from 20%. And, we really changed and increased our probability based on Wednesday's events. When you think about Wednesday, basically the U.S. administration reduced or eliminated or postponed the reciprocal tariffs and essentially has a flat 10% rate here outside of China, whereas they actually increased the China rate up to now 145%, which really actually does makes no sense for Apple to even touch that capacity there.
From Apple's tumultuous journey to Nvidia's meme status, witness the ebb and flow of market dynamics. Feel the pulse of uncertainty mingled with opportunity as we navigate through the highs and lows of stock investments. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
So bottom line, you think Apple has a good argument for that exemption. Whether or not the White House buys that argument, I guess, is another thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, we think when you start thinking about kind of the added stress that's essentially put onto Apple kind of post Wednesday's events now kind of, having a disadvantage from a competitive landscape. We just think it makes more sense or increasing sense to offer them that, that exemption.
Angelo, do you think domestic iPhone manufacturing, U.S. iPhone manufacturing, is that financially tenable?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, any type of manufacturing for any goods on the chip manufacturing side of things and the hardware side of things, as far as the tech ecosystem is concerned, is very difficult. We all know about the slip up with Foxconn and them trying to build a $10 billion plant in Wisconsin back in 2017 and how that never came to fruition. Clearly we've seen some, like the likes of Taiwan Semi, find some success here. So we think Apple can move some supply chain manufacturing or push some of that here into the U.S. in terms of getting some of the other suppliers out there to build bases here. But overall, in terms of the assembly, testing, putting together building facilities as far as iPhones is concerned, it's just a stretch to us. I mean, from a cost perspective, it does not make any sense.
As we reach the culmination of our stock market saga, it's time to contemplate the future. With forecasts pointing towards growth, consider taking the plunge into the stock we've dissected. Let the current state of affairs guide your investment decisions. Embrace the ever-evolving nature of stocks with a keen eye on the horizon. Join us in this financial odyssey where every dip and rise presents a new chapter in the ever-unfolding stock market narrative. Share your thoughts, opinions, and insights as we embark on this exhilarating journey together. Your investment future awaits. Are you ready to seize the opportunities that lie ahead? But what do you think? Share your thoughts down below. Finally, if you would like to know what companies like NVIDIA have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.